So I am sure you guys have seen some of these disturbing videos of the police brutality coming from the New York Police Department, ironically, in response to these protests against police brutality. And similar to how the police are behaving in many different police departments and precincts across the country, the NYPD has been gratuitously violent. They have initiated the violence at these protests. They are violating these peaceful, lawful protesters' First Amendment right to protest in the streets. And they are entirely out of control. Some of the examples that we've seen, dozens and dozens of videos of NYPD alone acting the fuck up. We've seen the NYPD on mounted patrols knock over peaceful protesters who are just standing there, knock them over with their horses, which couldn't kill someone. I've seen groups of NYPD officers ganging up, dogpiling on top of protesters, beating the shit out of them, sometimes 6, 7 of them at one time, stomping and hitting them with batons. That's not how you detain someone. If they really wanted to detain this person, I'm sure 5 trained police officers in military equipment could do it without that much violence, but they're doing it because they feel like it. So like I said, it's gratuitous violence. And the most infamous video of the last few days from the New York Police Department was the video of several officers in police SUVs hitting protesters with their cars. These videos have collectively shocked the conscience of the nation and shocked the conscience of the people around the world when they see what the New York Police Department have been doing to peaceful, lawful protests in their city. Now, in comes Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, who has more control of the police department than any other elected official. So it's his job to keep the police in line and to protect his citizens as mayor from the out of control, gratuitously violent, and unaccountable police department in New York. So after days and countless evidence of police brutality in New York, Bill de Blasio, in a press conference, comes out and defends the NYPD, makes full-throated defense of the police department. Says, quote, "I think the police show tremendous restraint." I don't know how he can say that and not feel the full pressure of all citizens in New York City forcing him to resign. I don't understand that. Your mayor just came out and applauded the police for their days of brutality against his own citizens, and he is not only defending them, he's saying they show tremendous restraint. So what that means is you guys are lucky. If they really wanted to, they could have fucked your shit up even more. That's what Bill de Blasio is saying. So that's outrageous. There is no way any rational, sane human being on this planet can see how the NYPD has been so vicious to the citizens in New York, and how they've initiated this violence and how they've unlawfully broken up these peaceful protests with these out of control, violent, barbaric tactics, and say that they showed restraint or even defend them in any way, because all of that was indefensible. You think Bill de Blasio doesn't know how violent and how vicious the NYPD is to protesters? You think he doesn't know? You don't think he knows how vicious they are on a regular basis? The day the protests started in New York, New Yorkers who were still in New York and who were outside of New York, before the protest even started, or as the protest was starting, let me rephrase, and the police began to mobilize, they put out warnings to the people who were out there protesting that the New York Police Department are known for being especially vicious and brutal to their citizens, definitely when they're protesting. So the citizens of New York City knew this about their police department. Before anything even popped off over the last few days, they knew what was going to happen. And then these videos come out confirming what they were saying about how violent and brutal the police department is. And then Bill de Blasio still comes out and defends them. And mind you, this is the same New York Police Department that choked out and murdered Eric Gardner in broad daylight on video for the capital offense of selling loose cigarettes on the streets in New York. And it wasn't even on that day where they confronted him. They just heard around the street on the block that he was selling loose cigarettes at one point. So they come down with the full force of the law and choke him out in broad daylight over it. So we saw that happen. And what was the response from the New York Police Department? What was the response from Bill de Blasio? Nothing. The police officer was I believe he was on the job for over a year after the murder. To this day, still no prosecution. And it was clear that that wasn't legitimate policing. He was using a chokehold. He was using a chokehold that's banned in the New York Police Department, and still there were no repercussions for it. So, and it's not just Bill de Blasio. It's been proven time and time again, no matter who the mayor is in New York City, the police department gets to run roughshod and run amok throughout the city, brutalize whoever they want, and they're accountable to no one. When it was Rudy Giuliani, stop and frisk was a great example of why we need community oversight boards. Do you think if there was a community oversight board, they would have allowed Rudy Giuliani and the New York Police Department to stop thousands and thousands, unconstitutionally stop and search thousands and thousands of black people in New York for no reason? All while they were doing that, 99% of the time, when they stopped someone, they weren't committing a crime. They weren't in possession of drugs or gun. They were just law-abiding citizens going about their day being harassed by the police department. And the numbers just are damning. And it just proves how this was just a tactic to harass and give the police a excuse to confront black people and search them for no reason. 99% of the time, they stopped someone, they didn't have anything. They didn't have anything. So the idea, this proves many times over that the police department being that there's only one politician who has oversight over these police departments. And all it takes is one corrupt deal with one corrupt politician, and for the rest of the time that he's mayor, he'll turn a blind eye and let the police department do whatever they want, brutalize whoever they want, be completely lawless, because it benefits him to not start a confrontation with the police department. He doesn't want to antagonize them. He doesn't want to make his job even harder to deal with a police department who isn't personally a fan of theirs. I have a little piece of context that might explain why he's defending the NYPD the way he is. So over a couple of days ago, or was it yesterday, a report came out that Bill de Blasio's daughter was arrested in the protest in New York. And of course she was released. So the way I see it is, if they didn't make some type of arrangement where he gets his daughter out of jail and lets the police department to continue to crack heads and do all types of violent shit in New York City, he's doing it because they have some type of arrangement, and he doesn't want to upset that arrangement with the police department. He doesn't want to be on the bad side of the police department. So even though they're out there running people down with their cars, they're out there knocking people over on mounted patrols, they're out there dogpiling and beating up peaceful protesters, Bill de Blasio is going to come out here like a clown and tell people that the police department showed tremendous restraint. So this is just another reason why the way that policing is set up in this country is just bonkers and insane. The mayor in New York and in any city across the country, they get to hire the police commissioner who is in charge of the police department. They get to set the rules and regulations for how the police departments run. But one of the solutions that people are putting out to deal with this and to deal with police brutality in general is to have community oversight boards. Because if the people that they're supposed to be policing and have oversight over the police departments, it would look a lot different than it looks right now. These oversight boards should be made up of people who live in the community, and they should have the power to fire police departments, to fire police officers and initiate investigations, and do any other oversight that is necessary, including crafting rules and regulations that the police department is supposed to follow on a regular basis. That's more logical than just having one person being allowed to decide whether or not the police officers just get to act lawless and out of control. Because we're seeing Bill de Blasio right now, he's siding with the police officers after the dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of videos of his police officers out of control. He's still going to tell people that they show tremendous restraint. And like I said, that's code for you guys should be lucky. If they really wanted to, they could have fucked you up even more. So it's outrageous that Bill de Blasio is defending him. And it's even crazier that he hasn't resigned yet.